I'm Tamara. I'm so happy to introduce John Russ, our next guest speaker here on Call to Awakening. John is a spiritually minded student of New Thought and the current music director at the Unity of Springfield, and is a student and teacher at the School of Metaphysics. When asked to share a little of himself, John said, "I came to metaphysics seeking a way to end, or at least relieve my suffering, as do most people. I found a new perspective on what suffering is, our true nature, and the interconnectedness and beauty of everything." John enjoys sharing this with others through his music and teaching, and therefore brings a particular element to the table with his experience with breath and things that involve vibration and things that are particularly connected to music. And finally, he shared with us, we are all amazing, beautiful beings sharing this planet, and I mean you. Thank you, John, for sharing your beautiful self with us. We look so forward to what you have to share with us, and honored to have you. Thank you.
Hi there, my name's John, and I wanted to talk for a few minutes about the use of breath as a tool, specifically to do three things. One is to quiet the mind. The second is to bring the awareness to the present moment. And lastly, as a tool for reinforcing affirmations and making affirmations more powerful. So I've been breathing my entire life. As I'm sure most of you have, or all of you have since you're here. And it was something that I took for granted. I didn't really think of it as being a tool. Several years ago, I felt like I was at a point where I really felt like my life was falling apart, and I was very stressed out. I was trying to control things I couldn't control, and the way that I dealt with that mentally was to constantly examine everything by looking at the past, like first by saying I'm not happy with the way things are, then going to the past and saying what could I have changed in the past that would make this situation be different now. And then I would go into the future and think, well, if this thing happens tomorrow or later today, how am I going to cope with that? And my thoughts would zigzag between the past and the future, and both are things that are out of my control, but I spent very little time in the present moment. And I was really having a hard time dealing with stress. So at that time, my work had a wellness coordinator, and every year we had to go and talk to the wellness coordinator as part of our wellness program. And most of the time when anyone asked me, how are you dealing with stress? I would say, fine. I was stressed out, but I could make my way through a day, and I could survive that day. And so I thought I was doing okay. This time, when she asked me that question, I said, I'm not doing well with stress. And she gave me a book to read that was about how to manage stress. And the very first thing in that book was about breathing. And it said to breathe in for, I forget, I think a count of 10, hold the breath for a count of 10, and then release the breath for a count of 10. So as somebody who is overly analytical, I thought, well, that sounds kind of stupid and it probably won't work, but at that time I was desperate enough to try it. And so I did, and it made me feel better. It made me feel better right away. And it just quieted my thoughts for that time that I was practicing that breathing. So, and all it was inhale to the count of 10 and hold, and then release. To inhale through the nose, hold, and release. So inhale through the nose. Hold, and release. Now, if you did that with me, you probably feel a little bit different after doing it. And so that was my experience. And, before I did that simple breathing exercise, my thoughts were all over the place. And that helped me to focus and come into the now moment, I later realized. So not too long after I learned that particular exercise, I went to a chair yoga session that was also through the wellness program at my work. And the woman who was giving the presentation said, most of us spend our time living in the past, thinking about things that happened in the past, or living in the future, and thinking about things that haven't happened yet. And very few of us spend the majority of our time in the present moment. And the present moment is the only time that's real. And so I thought that was pretty awesome. And I thought that resonated pretty well with what I was going through at the time. And I could see the importance of that. So I think at that time I was just open to receiving that message, because that message was what I needed to learn in order to survive. And so I started making a regular practice of breathing. I was taking a spiritual course at that time where we focused on meditation. And in terms of bringing into the breath being able to bring us into the present moment, I love this Buddhist monk. His name is Mingyur Rinpoche, Mingyur Ripoche, and he's on YouTube. He's a Buddhist monk that had problems with anxiety and used meditation to deal with anxiety. And so one of my favorite things that he teaches is about how to quiet the monkey mind. When the monkey mind is chattering away, talking about the past, talking about the future, blah, 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 blah. You're trying to focus. You're trying to be in the now. But the monkey mind is doing this and talking, what about this? And what about this? I need to go fold my laundry. Did I put away those dishes? Maybe I should wash my dishes now. All the distractions that the mind wants to throw in there to take your attention away from the present moment, because the mind has the ability to live in the past and the future. And so wants to do this. That's what the mind is trying to do, the unfocused mind. And so Mingyur said that, what can you do with the monkey mind? Can you give it a banana? No, you can't give it a banana, but you can give it a job, and that job can be to watch the breath. So if we're busy watching our breath only happens in the now moment. So if we pay attention to the breath, by paying attention to the breath, we're paying attention to the now moment. So we're coming into the now. And if you think about it, most of the time that we're worried, that we have anxiety, that we feel depressed, it's not because we're experiencing something traumatic now. It's because we're reliving something that happened to us that we found traumatic, or we're imagining something that hasn't happened to us yet in order to prepare for it, and that's causing us trauma. None of that trauma is real. Or it was real at the time, but it's not happening now. Even if I'm thinking about something that a friend told me that I find upsetting, and putting myself in a position of sympathizing with them, That's not something that's happening to me in the now moment. So if I want to feel at peace, if I come into the now moment, that's where I'm going to find the peace. In my church, we spend a lot of time in meditation. And one of the things that I heard when I first started going there was, in this moment, all is well. And so that's true. In this moment, all is well. That's true almost all the time. Sometimes there's an unpleasant thing that's happening in the present moment, but that passes. Most of the time, everything is fine. So for me, an important tool became to breathe in and think, in this moment, all is well. In this moment, all is well. And just kind of repeat that. That became a really important tool for me to quiet my mind. And the third thing that I heard was that you can use breath as a means of enforcing affirmations. So if I want to experience peace in my world, I can breathe in peace. As I breathe in, I can envision peace coming into my body. As I breathe out, I can imagine sending peace out into the world. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. As I breathe out, I send peace out into the world. I breathe in peace, and I send peace to you. I breathe in peace, and I send you peace. So those are some tools that I've learned and that I use as a regular practice. And I just wanted to share that with you. Hopefully those things will be useful to you. And thank you so much for listening. I love you all. Namaste.